$10,000. That's the exact price tag on Mac Gargan's entire life. J. Jonah Jameson slid that money across the table, pointed at a machine, and basically said, "Help me destroy Spider-Man." And Mac, a broke, struggling private investigator, said yes. But here's the part that still gets me. The suit they strapped him into that day. In some versions of this story, he never takes it off again. Not because he doesn't want to, because he can't. Imagine a costume that fuses to your nerves, plugs into your spine, and slowly convinces your own brain that it's a part of you. That's not a supervillain outfit, that's a prison with a paint job, and today we're breaking down every single piece of it, layer by layer, wire by wire, from the Kevlar underneath to that infamous tail, because once you understand how this armor actually works, you'll never look at Scorpion as a joke again. Real quick, if you're into deep dives like this, hit subscribe, it genuinely helps this channel grow, and drop a comment right now, which Spider-Man villain has the deadliest suit? I read every single one. Alright, let's get into it. The $10,000 mistake. So who even is this guy? Mac Gargan first popped up in Amazing Spider-Man issue 19, back in December 1964, created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. One issue later, he becomes the Scorpion, and his origin is honestly one of the most cynical in all of Marvel. Gargan was a private eye hired by Jameson to figure out how Peter Parker kept getting those perfect Spider-Man photos. When that failed, Jameson upgraded the plan. He paid Gargan 10 grand to volunteer for an experimental procedure run by a scientist named Dr. Farley Stillwell, and the logic behind it was almost childish. In nature, the Scorpion is the natural predator of the spider, so build a Scorpion Man, and he beats the Spider-Man. Simple, right? And here's the wild part. It actually worked. The serum made Gargan physically stronger than Spider-Man. Pound for pound, Scorpion has almost always been the stronger one, and that detail surprises people every time. But the procedure also cracks something in his mind. The predator instincts came with the package, and Mac never signed up for that part. Now let's take this suit apart, piece by piece. Start from the inside. The original suit was actually pretty simple. 2 layers of light steel mesh with insulated rubber sandwiched between them. Basic protection, nothing fancy. But over the years, the suit got rebuilt again and again, and the modern version is a beast. Innermost layer, woven Kevlar, flexible, tough. Over that, a thick layer of insulation and padding to soak up impacts, and on top, high-tech composite armor plating that makes him basically immune to small firearms. You can empty a pistol at this guy and he just keeps walking. And here's a detail I love. Gargan has 0 engineering skill. None. Every version of this suit was built by somebody else. Stillwell built the first one with Jameson's money. Later upgrades came from the Tinkerer, from Justin Hammer, from Roxxon, even from Alistair Smythe. Mac has always been a guy wearing other people's genius. Which, if you think about it, is kind of the whole tragedy in one sentence. The tale, the masterpiece, and the curse. Okay, this is the signature piece, so let's slow down. That tail is not just a big metal whip. Inside, it's a series of circular steel plates connected by a web of steel cables. Little motors yank those cables to steer it, and the whole thing can lash out at over 150 feet per second. The first version was about 7 feet long. Later models stretched to 18, even 20 feet, became fully prehensile, and got a stinger on the tip. He can coil it under himself and spring 30 feet into the air. He can use it as a 5th limb, and over the years, his suppliers kept bolting weapons onto it: acid sprays, tear gas, electric shocks, even a plasma blaster. The tail slowly became a full weapons platform, but here's the detail that changes everything. That tail is wired directly into the fine muscles of his spine, a cybernetic link. He controls it with involuntary nerve impulses, basically with his thoughts, powered by a pack on his back that lasts about 24 hours. Which sounds cool until you realize what it actually means. He can never fully turn it off. It's always there, humming against his nervous system. Now imagine living like that, a weapon fused to your spine that twitches every time you get angry. No wonder the guy's mind kept slipping. And the small details are even nastier. The suit kept evolving specifically to beat Spider-Man. When Spidey kept webbing his eyes, Justin Hammer's engineers added a transparent membrane over the eye holes that dissolves webbing on contact. When Spidey kept tying him up, Alistair Smythe added pincers to his gloves that shred webbing like paper. Smythe's version even gave him his own Scorpion sense, a danger radar just like Spider-Man's. You see the pattern? Every piece of this armor is a scar from a lost fight. This suit is basically a diary of defeats, written in metal. Quick pause. Are you actually starting to feel bad for this guy? Because I genuinely am, and I need to know I'm not alone here. Drop it in the comments. And if you're enjoying this, hit that like button. It helps more than you think. Same Scorpion, very different cages. Now here's where it gets interesting, because every adaptation answers one question differently. Can he take the suit off? In the comics, mostly yes, it's armor. But in the legendary 1994 animated series, there is no suit at all. Jameson talks poor, desperate Mac into a machine called the Neogenic Recombinator, and his body itself becomes the Scorpion. Green skin, the tail is flesh, and he can never, ever take it off. That version of Scorpion isn't chasing money or revenge. He just wants to be human again, and it's honestly heartbreaking. The show even gave him a legendary voice, Martin Landau at first, and every line drips with this desperate, cornered animal energy. He beat Spider-Man in that show, more than once, and it didn't matter, because the thing he actually wanted was the one thing no fight could win back. His whole arc became one long, failed hunt for a cure. Then you've got Into the Spider-Verse, where they flipped it the other way. Scorpion as a hulking cyborg, metal tail, metal pincer arm, more machine than man. The suit didn't just trap him there, it replaced him, piece by piece, and the newest animated show strips him all the way down, just Mac Gargan, the street-level crime figure, no tail, no armor, at least so far, a reminder that underneath everything, this was always just a dangerous, desperate man. And the games went dark. In Marvel's Spider-Man on PlayStation, Scorpion runs with the Sinister Six, and his tail is loaded with a toxin that hits Spider-Man with one of the creepiest hallucination sequences in any superhero game. If you played it, you remember it, but the sequel is where it gets brutal. Kraven the Hunter comes to New York hunting the world's greatest predators, and Mac Gargan is on his list. And that version of Scorpion's story ends permanently. The Scorpion finally met a bigger predator, and honestly, there's something almost poetic about that. Oh, and for the live-action fans, yes, Michael Mando's Mac Gargan has been sitting in the shadows of that universe ever since his little post-credits scene years ago, Scorpion tattoo on his neck, just waiting. Fans have wanted to see him suit up for the better part of a decade. I'll just say, keep your eyes open. Alright, we're past the halfway point, and this is the part that actually messes me up, because the darkest piece of this armor isn't a piece at all. Here's what happened to Mac Gargan over the years. The constant defeats, the mutation, that tail buzzing against his spine around the clock, it all added up, and at some point, his mind broke in a very specific way. He became convinced the suit could not come off, that it had fused to his body, that he wasn't a man in a costume anymore. He was the costume. Spider-Man literally had to unmask him just to prove to the guy that his own face was still under there. Think about that for a second. The armor won, not physically, mentally. And in some versions of the lore, it gets even worse. His mutation became so unstable that going without the suit for too long would actually strain his body to dangerous levels. So the thing that ruined his life became the thing keeping him alive. If that's not a prison, I don't know what is. And the tragedy spreads. Dr. Stillwell, the man who built all this, realized almost immediately what he'd created and tried desperately to reverse it. He lost his life in the attempt. Later, his brother Harlan got dragged into the same nightmare. Everyone who touched this project paid for it. And after a horrific accident left Gargan badly scarred, do you know what he did? He crawled back to Stillwell's old lab and ran the same procedure on himself. Again, voluntarily. It healed him, it made him stronger, and it made him even less stable. The man kept choosing the cage, because by then, the cage was all he had left. And then came the ultimate irony. The Venom symbiote, an actual living suit, chose Mac as its host for years. The one guy already broken by an armor he couldn't escape got swallowed by another one, except this one was alive and hungry. It could even copy his old tail. And in modern comics, in Absolute Carnage, his mechanical tail literally got infused with living symbiote matter, metal and monster fused into one. His entire history welded together into a single weapon. You genuinely could not write a more fitting fate for this man. So here's the thing about Scorpion. Every single piece of that armor tells the same story. The Kevlar, the tail, the pincers, the eye membranes, all of it built by other people, bolted onto a man who just needed $10,000. Peter Parker got bit by a spider and chose to become a hero. Mac Gargan got handed a check and never got to choose anything again. And maybe that's why, after all these years, I can't fully hate the guy. The scariest piece of Scorpion's armor was never the tail. It was the fact that once it went on, Mac Gargan never really came back out. So tell me down below, which version of Scorpion is your favorite? The classic green suit, the tragic 94 mutation, the cyborg, or the game version? And which villain's armor should I tear apart next? Drop it in the comments, subscribe so we can keep this spider family growing, and I'll catch you in the next one. And hey, be careful what you put on. Some things don't come off.